Hello, and welcome to the Kaizen Academy podcast. I'm Justin, and I'm here with my co-host, Cal. What's up,
Yo,
Cal?
yo.
All right, today we're going to be continuing on with talking about hobbies. So, as a student, what hobbies should you be picking up? Just say, like, you're leaving year 12 right now, you've got a big summer break, what should you do? Or you're a uni student looking to pick up some like new hobbies. So, last week we did a bunch of different sports. Now we're going to be basically talking about a whole bunch of like other topics. So, more cultural things or anything not exercise related, basically. So,
Non-sports.
non-sport things. So kind of continuing in the same vein, we're kind of looking at these hobbies as not just how much enjoyment you get per se from the hobby, but also a lot of times you get a lot of these like side bonuses, I guess, a bunch of utility that comes with hobbies. We were talking about last week, for example, exercise. It's often very social. You can meet new people. You can also keep fit. So often there's a lot of benefits to having hobbies
Yeah.
that aren't immediately obvious, and it's quite useful to choose hobbies that provide your life with a lot of good bonuses.
I feel like
So kind of the
what is it? Sorry. Like when you wanna like the things that we were saying last week or 2 weeks before, how you say you work on say you pick up this hobby, it's some sport, pick up OzTag or something like that, and it helps build things like willpower, build things like things that you never really focus on, and it feels like those things, if you try to focus on those things and actually work on it, it's so much harder than doing it implicitly. I don't know, like, and I think that's one of the big appeals for me. I tend to like, maybe I tend to just overthink things, so it's like when I don't think about something and things happen naturally, it kind of, it's always a little easier in that sense. And whenever I try to do it myself, like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna go out my way, try to work on my willpower. I don't get really far with these things. But yeah, I think that's one of like the really important parts of picking up these hobbies.
Okay, so first one I wanted to talk about was gaming. I think it's a very big topic because I think like even for us, right, it's been such a big part of growing up. You play games
No doubt.
with your friends. You just like there's a new game coming out every year or two. You jump on like different ones, but I think we've got a lot more perspective as we've gotten a bit older. We've kind of seen that there's a lot to think about in terms of gaming because personally for me it's been one of my biggest vices as well. It's been like one of the things that has always taken up so much of my attention that I couldn't focus on the things that I should have been focusing on. So I feel like it's one of the most important ones that we should be talking about because often I think there's a it's double edged, yeah.
Yep, definitely. And I mean, for you specifically, Justin, you've come back to it many times as well. It's like you've taken a break, come back, let me try this again, and it's like every single time I kind of recall you're just like, nope, I've just been playing too many games the last week. I'm gonna go quit again, Cal. Like I can't do this. That's always been the. I mean, it's a personal experience. It's anecdotal, right? And it's hard to be, hey, everyone, stop playing games. It's very much a responsibility that you got to take on yourself to, really look inside. Can I do this? I think both of us have realized we can't really do this. It's a bit of a sad truth, but comes with the territory, like you said. Comes with the territory.
Definitely, dude. Like, just building on that, I definitely don't want to like be looking like I'm taking the position of gaming is bad. Like, don't play games. Like, kind of like how my parents have sometimes like acted. Right, it's like just bad. Like, it very clearly shows like a lack of understanding of like what it's about. It's kind of just like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't understand it, so I don't want to. I don't want you playing it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it is definitely important to consider, is gaming actually for you? Because it could be. I've got a lot of friends who are perfectly functional. They're like working their jobs, and then afterwards it's a great way to like hop off and like talk to your friends and just having something to do while like socializing, right? Which is like amazing. But it's just for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, gaming is really affecting your life negatively. So kind of just telling my story. I've always played games like from like high school, and all through like a lot of uni. It was kind of like in the third year of uni where I kind of started to be like, okay, I think I know what the cause is. It really took a long time to
It's painful, isn't it?
accept.
To come to that conclusion.
It's really painful to accept that, like, okay, this thing that I enjoy so much is the thing that's
holding you back.
That's holding me back, that's causing me so many of my troubles, right? So as Cal was saying, like, I've had many times where, okay, I feel like I've matured a bit more. Let's try gaming again. It's like, it's still a great way to socialize with friends and stuff. It's a very good way to catch up with people. But I've come back to it like maybe 3-4 times now. And every time after like a good little while, I always know deep down, like, nope, I shouldn't be doing this. This is taking up way too much of my attention. And I think that's kind of the core thing that's bad about it, is that it really saps your, at least for me, because I tend to be very competitive with games. I tend to want to like optimize, like, okay, if I get into something, I want to like learn all the strats. I start watching YouTube videos like obsessively. I want to start climbing the ladder kind of thing. And that drive, you should be using that drive for other things. Like, it's kind of the reason you have that drive is to like, okay, go do something, like
get your life somewhere.
Go get like your life somewhere. Be productive. That's kind of why you have that inbuilt drive in the first place. Yeah. But when you kind of spend that drive on gaming, right, which you're kind of wasting it in the sense that you should probably get your life sorted in terms of like being able to look after yourself, pay your bills and whatever. And then if you have any like motivation left and you want to do that as a side thing, cool. But this side thing shouldn't be usurping your main purpose of like getting stuff done. Yeah. Whether that be like studying or like working or whatever. Unless of course like gaming is like gonna be your career, then that's like a different thing entirely.
Yeah. So unless something's gonna come out of it, and in this case we're doing it pretty much leisurely as a socializing tool, and I don't know, it's nice, like definitely nice to take your mind off things. It's a good change of pace. Say you've been at work all day, you come home, you want to play games. I see no reason in it, a reason not to do it. But yeah, like with myself and Justin, it's just, I don't know, what is it? Is it just not designed for us? Is it too addictive? Like, do we not have the right self-control? Like, because I also find myself in these deep, just like, I don't know, chasing this imaginary thing this goal that I keep setting for myself inside the game, right? And I'm, like you're saying, like I'm using so much of this drive in a virtual world that, as sad as it sounds, and in no way to condescend on anyone that does play games, it goes nowhere in terms of my life, right? To put that much effort into this one thing, this virtual thing, and then have no return, I guess. It doesn't really improve my life in any way. It's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it? Because you enjoy it. It's like one of the most, so fun. And I mean, the socializing aspect is there, but I remember you mentioned to me last time how psychologically the social aspect can be a lot deeper if you take on other hobbies, like, say, the first one that comes to mind is just going to be Oztag, but like Oztag, where you actually see people in real life, where you're going to have person-to-person interactions. What was that about, Justin?
So the idea I got from that was from a book called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And he was citing a study, and basically the gist of it was, if for example, if you talk to someone over Messenger or over chat, it kind of satisfies the logical part of your brain of needing social interaction, but the emotional part of your brain doesn't feel it as much. You still feel empty inside, kind of thing. Right. And there's kind of levels to it. So like if you call someone, it was kind of seeing that, okay, the emotional part of your brain, that satisfies it a bit more. You feel a bit less empty, but then actually seeing people in real life and like interacting, that's kind of what we were designed to be able to like to do, right? We're supposed to interact with people in real life, and that is what really satisfies that need for social interaction.
Yeah.
Whereas if you interact purely over like the worst form, which is just over text chat, then that almost in no way satisfies you at all. So that is kind of a side like point that I've personally like both like read about and also anecdotally experienced. Sometimes like if I just talk to people online, I still feel quite lonely that day. It's like it's a very shallow way to like briefly fight off the feeling of like loneliness or like anxiety or whatever.
Yeah.
But to have a deeper sense of fulfillment, I've always found that seeing people in real life is the best way.
Yeah.
With the pandemic like still ongoing, that's difficult, obviously, but it's kind of a do what you can kind of thing. So there's levels to it.
Yeah.
There's like
So
messenger is the worst. I think calls, audio calls are better. I don't think it was actually set. I don't think I actually read it, but I would assume video calls are better than audio calls.
Yeah.
And seeing people in real life is the best.
Yeah. So it's like it tricks you into thinking that you've met your social needs, social like requirement for the day. And you keep thinking to yourself, yeah, I'm social. And then like what? Like in 3 months you think to yourself, why do I feel so lonely? Why do I feel like depressed? I haven't seen anyone, but I feel like I feel like I'm socializing. So I have like this almost like a pseudo social interaction, right? Through that. And I think that's something to consider, because I was a big fan of the fact that I was able to come home, hop on Discord, and then have a chat with the boys. It's like that felt very nice, and I thought it was good enough, right? But I definitely feel, once again, just from experience, that over time, just nothing beats like a proper get together. Hey man, let's go for a beer or something like that. There is just something that you can't get, right, through Discord. There's just missing something. So yeah, something definitely to consider when we talk about gaming. But I mean, you brought up the pandemic, like, what are we supposed to do now? And I mean, I think in that context, we should be grateful that we even have these kind of I guess the means to stay in contact over long distances or while we're apart. So yeah, just there are definitely things going for it, but anyone who kind of sees himself as, yes, gaming is a big hobby of my life, really I think you just gotta be very responsible, which is hard at a young age, I'd say. Very responsible, like take that responsibility onto yourself, like to ask yourself, is this really like controlling my life, right? You want to be in control of it. You want to make sure that you actively seek out the games to alleviate your stress for the day, or to take a load off and to kind of chill out, right? But it's not that, hey, I need that game. I need to hop on every night to make sure that I get like 3 hours in with my boys to play whatever it is. Just make sure that you're the one in control, right? It's a hard question to ask, but I think with gaming, it's necessary. Probably one of the most important ones to be asking yourself with.
For sure. And I guess it's kind of like just connected two dots for me as well, in that like kind of both of these points that we've talked about so far, it kind of shows, it kind of seems to me that gaming on the surface satisfies certain needs, but at a deeper level leaves them like unfulfilled. So the first one was kind of the motivation issue. You make progress when you play games, right? And that feels really good. You're like, you get better, you climb the ladder, you become like, I don't know, level 100 in WoW or whatever. You get really good at Genshin Impact.
Oh yes.
Like you're really satisfying that drive to do things, to like make something of yourself, but in a very shallow way, in a game, which most of the time won't help you. Again, like if gaming is your career, then that's a completely different thing. But if it's not actually something that you'll be pursuing as something to support yourself, then you are really like satisfying that need in a very shallow way, as opposed to saving that up, I guess, and using that motive drive to do better at school or whatever.
Yeah.
And similarly, it satisfies that social need where, okay, you're talking to people, like maybe you meet online friends, or maybe you talk to people over Discord. But at the that's kind of like like deep at a shallow level
Yeah.
satisfies it, so you're less likely to actually put in the effort to go out and see friends.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, gives
Um,
you an excuse to be like, oh no, I've already spoken to them. So it's, I'd say like imagine you deprive yourself of all this social interaction, then it becomes like an alarming thing. I need to see my friends, and if the social interaction is not on the table, you're more forced to, hey, you know what? Let's go grab a drink. Let's go get some lunch, right? But I think that's a great point that you bring up. Just with the social interactions, you keep giving yourself excuses, and it helps justify why you're not going out and hanging with your friends. It's so easy to just forget about. I mean, I'm saying this, but I'm really saying this to myself. Like I've been trying to. I've got a list of people, just trying to get through everyone. But every single time I get a little carried away, things get a little hectic. I just justify it for myself. Oh, I've spoken to them. We chat once in a while, but it's so hard to disconnect myself from that.
yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because there's so much to this topic. But I guess we've kind of set our piece in terms of like, okay, think about it. If deep down you know that gaming is kind of having a negative impact on your life, maybe it's time to think about like stopping it or doing less of it.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about gaming for the responsible people who
Yeah.
can perfectly like manage it without
100%.
getting addicted to it. Let's talk about what games we used to play.
Oh. Oh.
Cal.
I mean, the one that ruled my life for like the majority of my university degree was pretty much CS:GO. And
Yeah.
I think we share a lot of interest. Myself and Justin, we tend to like things where it's like, I don't know, it feels like very tactical. It feels like you're being big brain. Like, oh, I'm so clever when I play this. It's not a mindless game. I think we both find a lot of interest in games that feel like they require a little more, right? It might be a bit of a superiority complex. Oh, I play this, I'm better than everyone else. Don't worry, I don't play it anymore, so it should be right. My ego's not that big. But the idea is that, hey, like I play this game and it's really complex, it's super deep. And maybe we're attracted to those games because it helps cloud the idea that it is a shallow experience. Like, no, it's really deep. It's really like, it's like this really complex thing that I'm playing. I'm not just playing like a game to forget about my troubles, but in reality I am. And so I think, yeah, I was
Hitting
very
deep, Cal.
Yeah.
You're hitting deep.
bro. I'm realizing how true it is as it's coming out of my mouth. I'm like, oh, far out. This kind of hurts. Like I wasted 3 years of my uni just playing games, man. I was getting like 60s from all of my subjects and stuff like that, barely passing. I mean, it took me to literally fail a subject. That was the shocking moment that I was like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on? The games are getting out of hand. I think that was the moment for me.
Just wasted $1,000.
Yeah. And I
Sorry,
think for me,
dude.
just embarrassing. Do you remember, Justin, when I found out I failed that subject? It was in Japan.
It was
We went
in
to Japan.
yeah.
We were in Kyoto. I remember we were walking through Kyoto, and it was just like I got the notification, your results came through, and I was just like, I mean, to some people it's like, wow, big deal, you failed a subject. But I think leading up until that point, I was this like, I had this, oh, you're a high achiever student, you're a special student. I had this thing built up in my mind from high school that I was like this absolutely ace of a student, and my average or my expectation for myself was always like 99, 99, 99, 100, 100, 100. And then all of a sudden I see that I've failed. I think that was a really big shock to my ego, big shock to just everything. So I guess I used that moment, and even then it wasn't like immediate, oh yeah, stop playing games. It took me a few months after that to let everything kind of like simmer and like stew, and for me to realize, oh, you know what, I need to start making changes in my life. I need to start focusing my energy elsewhere, definitely. But yeah, CS:GO was definitely one of those. I still, and this is definitely not a rag. We're not ragging on these games 100%, right? These are our experiences, and I take 100% responsibility on why they were toxic for my life, but it doesn't mean that it's toxic for everyone, right? It could be very productive. and that's kind of what we're trying to get across right now.
Oh, good old CS:GO days. That game was like I got really into it. Like as we all did, all of our friends after high school, and
Yeah,
man, that was such a stressful game. You had to be like switched on the entire time.
you're sweating, man, at the end of each session, just like
Sweating, yeah.
just from sitting there, just so much freaking adrenaline.
But I did enjoy my time with CS:GO, but it's actually not the type of game that I tend to like the most.
Mm.
Um, I found I've realized what I like. I don't quite like slow games that are too strategic. You sit there and think for a long time, like chess. Not a fan of those, but at the same time, I don't like games that are real time. The place I'm best at is kind of the in between, where you have a very limited time to think about what decision you want to make, and you make it intuitively. Um, so games like Hearthstone or games like TFT, those were in my wheelhouse. I've dedicated many hours of to those games, and I got pretty decent at them. Um, what else did I play? I used to play League of Legends. Did you ever try that, Cal?
No, I haven't. Wait, but you say like I don't know the way that you describe Hearthstone and all of those games feels very similar. Okay, definitely not as CS. I mean, CS we're talking about like a first person shooter, but I'd say out of like many of the shooting games, CS is probably the most under that archetype, under that umbrella. Wouldn't you agree? Like very
I would
okay,
agree.
make intuitive decisions. We're not going in and we're not gonna go in and just guns blazing. That's not how we win this game. It's very much a well-oiled team, a lot of communication, decision making, a lot of that, right? And I feel like just from my perspective, that's kind of how and why we gravitated so much to it. But I was just thinking like these games, right? We're playing.
That part of
Yep.
CS:GO
Yep.
is what I liked. Like one of my favorite things was planting like for long. Like that strategy felt like so cool to me, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, choosing where to plant, and then like that gives you a very good strategic like or tactical position to
Yep.
like be like advantaged in the coming fight.
Right.
So I
Big
really
brain
like that
plays.
part.
Definitely.
Big brain plays, but I didn't like the reaction time aspect. I didn't
Ah,
like
okay. Yeah.
just being a good shooter. I didn't have
Yeah.
the mechanics for it.
Yeah. You need that like god level eye to hand to eye coordination thing, right? Because that's kind of like that makes up the other half of the game. But that's why I think it draws such a big crowd. It's like it plays to both kind of elements of interest, I guess. But yeah, and just kind of come back to it. We're saying it when you play games, it fulfills this very shallow amount of motivation or a shallow amount of drive that you have in your life, and you spend it in the wrong direction. I was wondering though, can it be? Can you twist that so that it's a positive though? Like let's say I don't know, the thing that you have in your life doesn't really provide you that much motivation, so you have this motivation to keep you going in like the low times while you find yourself. Is that possible?
Anecdotally, um, just with gaming specifically, I haven't found much like utility in my life like from it. Um, so gaming, the only benefit that has always been there has been just that it's fun and that I'm seeing friends. I
Mm.
think if you're in a position where you don't like your whatever you're doing during the day, and you're spending and then you're getting a lot of motivation from gaming at night, it's probably better to like think about what you're doing during the day instead. Like
Ah, okay.
think about what's wrong there.
I was thinking about it like
Um,
in terms of say when we were talking about say running, jogging. Like when we're jogging, right? You practice your willpower. It's like practicing your willpower, and then it translates into other aspects of your life. And I was wondering, you develop this competitiveness in gaming. Does that bleed out into other aspects of your life? Is that maybe one reason why some people are attracted to it? Maybe one reason why some people have or some people would kind of promote it, I guess.
yeah, I've thought about this before, and like I can't think of a single time gaming has helped me
Yeah.
in a different aspect in my life. Or what about you, Cal?
I'm in the same camp. I'm just trying to be like devil's advocate, I guess, because my experience has been just yeah, spicy. It's just never been really
Because
productive.
the thought has been in my head, like trying to justify, like, oh, I
Yes.
should be playing games because, like, oh, it could help me with this, that, whatever. But if I really sit down and think about it, no, gaming has not helped me in a single
Oh
aspect
man.
of my life.
Oh well, I
It
guess
would be
that
cool. It would be
that
cool.
yeah. I mean, I guess that's it. What about like? Oh man, I'm really gunning for gaming, man. I'm on the pro gaming side right now. I'm really trying to make a case for it. But what about like keeping your brain active? What if you're see? It's like I'm saying like, oh, what if the thing that you do in your everyday life is very brain dead, and you want something to keep your brain active? But then again, it's like if that's the case, maybe you should work on the things in your life to find a more fulfilling thing to be doing in the daytime, right? Or whatever it is that you're occupying yourself with, instead of finding it through games. Yeah.
All right. I think we've rambled quite a bit on gaming. Think on that, people. Think on that.
Yes.
All right. What's the next one that we have, Cal? Or
For
you have any-
me, I've put down something that's very close to me, and I spend a lot of time doing or kind of in this, just working on my car. So I guess I put that down as a hobby, and I think this is not. I wouldn't say this is something that's niche. It's quite popular. I think a lot of people are into it, and there's something about it that for me, sometimes after a day, I guess as uni students, we're always like, the brain is always activated. So a day's full of uni work is just pure sitting down, thinking. As a tutor, after a day of tutoring, it's just you've thought all day. Like your brain has been on overdrive, right? And I think with cars, or just a couple other things that I've listed as well, it gives me a chance to just turn my brain off and just do something that just feels like I work with like my craftsmanship almost. I don't know. It's something about getting my hands dirty or getting my hands in there, doing something with my hands. It appeals to my caveman like tendencies, my DNA almost like it was in my
It's very
DNA.
tactile.
It
Yeah.
is something about that, like the ratchets, like grr, 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 and you're just unbolting things, you're putting things together, you're fixing things. There is something in, I don't know. I don't want to come off like super sexist, but from experience, I feel like there is something in the male's DNA to want to fix things. Like we just want to fix something. Like there is something so satisfying about being able to fix something, or like physical things, right? And so like yeah, I really enjoy that. I just kind of when I get a chance, if it's within my capability, I just kind of work on my car. And yeah, it's nothing deep. It's nothing deep because sometimes it's very just I don't even know. Just kind of I'd put on something very small or do something very small, but it brings me a lot of happiness. Um, and the other aspect is just that sometimes it can be like almost meditative. Like
Just on your last point, real
yes,
quick. Another point that was brought up in the same book, I think you would actually really enjoy it. Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. Well, he talked about this exact same thing, in that nowadays with so many people working digitally, it's important to have a hobby that is very tactile, to engage your sense of touch, because that's one of the biggest things that or that he says. I don't know where he got it from, but he says that yeah, we've had like a long ancestry of like craftsmanship, right? People used to like be very hands-on, used to be farmers, or used to like build things, right? It's kind of baked into our DNA to want to be able to touch what we're doing, I guess. And there's a deeper connection with your work when you're able to like feel it with your sense of touch.
Yeah, so that's what it is.
And that's exactly what you were talking about just
Bro,
then.
yeah, what the hell? I should write a book, man. What the? There's something about it, man. Like something about sitting on a computer all day or writing all day that just doesn't really scratch that itch for me. And then like get in the garage and you're like working on this thing and you're getting messy. It's just like, yeah, this is me. This is me being a man. Also, the other part of it is like, I want to be a man. Like, I want to be a manly man. That's probably toxic masculinity, but I'll stuff it. Whatever. I'm kind of it kind of it satisfies that part of me. And then the other thing that I mentioned was just like sometimes you'd work on it for hours, and I have these very nice memories of just like working on your car for hours, and it's like sunset, it's quiet, and you're just like by yourself, and it's really meditative. Right? It's like meditation almost. It's a chance for me to take a deep breath and just pause for a second and be in the moment, which I don't really get to do when teaching or when cramming for a uni exam or something like that. So I think it's a nice change of pace that a lot of people enjoy, especially now that, like you said, people work so digitally. It's like we're slowly drifting further and further away from things like that.
Cool. So I don't have too much to say in terms of cars. Anything else you wanted to add? So why should a student get into cars?
I think I don't know the it kind of started as a, oh yeah, I like cars, and then it grew out of that. I mean, I don't know. Is it baked into my DNA that I like these things? I like how things work. Um, when it comes to cars, I think it's a very expensive hobby though. That's something that I've had to learn over the last couple months. Um, so it's also something to consider. You want to be in a very financially secure position. You don't want to blow out your savings for this stuff. So just be careful with that. I think you got to be like anything. You got to be so responsible. And the other thing is, oh, actually, this is kind of a. I think this topic is more so for later on. I think cars itself very expensive, or can get very expensive as a hobby. But for all of the benefits that I've mentioned, if that's something that you're into, by all means, by all means, I think it's something that we just don't get enough of these days. That whole working with your hands, and especially I think a lot of students that are listening to this, a lot of students that are finishing year 12, you guys are probably all aiming to go to uni and stuff like that. You're not gonna get a lot of that hands-on experience in the line of work that you're probably jumping into. A bit of a generalization because I'm sure some students out there straight jumping into trade, which is fantastic. So I guess in that sense, your downtime might be characterized slightly differently. Oh, wait a second. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's a little pro for gaming, right? What if your day's work is just always hands on, and you get no digital interaction, right? So maybe it's a good mix. It's a good change of pace. I think that's why I enjoy it so much. It gives me a change of pace. It keeps things like it keeps things interesting, right? So I'm not just doing one thing all the time. So that's one way to put it, I guess. To kind of just jump
It's an
back
interesting thought. Yeah.
onto to the gaming thing, right? If you do work in trade and you're working, you're just laboring away all day and going at it, right? Getting your hands dirty, being a manly man. Oh, I shouldn't really say that. Being a strong, independent human. Um, maybe look into maybe your hobbies for more on the digital side, more on the hands off side, I guess. Right? But yeah.
All right. Cars. Next one I've got written down is music. Sorry, I just want to. We've got a lot to go through, so we've got to make a bit more pace now.
Oh, actually, yep.
Yeah. All right. Music. Music's a big one. I think everyone should. I don't think everyone should, but I think a lot of people would strongly benefit from getting into music in some form or another. Whether that be getting into like learning an instrument, which is one of the most common things, or getting into singing, or getting into producing music. I think there's a lot there. There's so many benefits to like being in music because everyone likes music, right? Everyone's connected to it in some way. People at the very least listen to music, so it's a very good way to connect with people, I think.
I mean, you yourself, Justin, from your experience, what do you find? What do you find the benefits have been from your experience? Because I know you take your lessons, vocal lessons and everything, and you're really big into singing and stuff like that.
So I did singing lessons for 2 years. I've since stopped since the pandemic started, but it's been fun. I've always enjoyed karaoke. That's kind of what prompted it. Like, just as soon as I got out of high school and then like went to my first karaoke, I was like, this is it. This is my thing. So after like a good few years of like just doing karaoke, one day I was just like, you know what? I should probably just like do some singing lessons to like get like the basics right at least. And
It helps with your social
um,
interactions as well, right? You feel more comfortable.
yes, so I feel a lot more confident at karaoke's now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like I would need like a bit of like alcohol to like give me that courage to like not care. But now that I've got a bit of a basis, I've got a bit more confidence. I'm not good by any stretch, but I've got more confidence in my singing, so I don't mind just like singing at karaoke,
Yep.
um, which is good.
Yep. And that kind of like similar to like dancing as well. And I see a lot of people take this up, right? Because TikTok's the biggest thing these days, and I saw that, you know, dancing is now so, it feels so accessible. It feels so, it used to be like, oh, you're a dancer, you're elite. But now it's like, no, everyone's a dancer. Like, everyone can kind of get into it, and that's really interesting. But it kind of comes back to, hey, a lot of social interactions. Oh, actually, this is very anecdotal. A lot of our social interactions revolve around revolve around music. Um, that's kind of just the Western Sydney culture, isn't it? But I think a lot of social events, you know, it's always good to know how to get down, right? Weddings and stuff like that. I know you don't have a wedding every week, but still, it's like these kind of events where you vibe out to music. It's always good to know good to have like a baseline of dance, and I think a lot of people are attracted to, say, taking dance lessons so that they can just learn the basics, right? Or they just learn off TikTok, and now everyone's just like vibing away. Everyone looks like they have like the ultimate swagger, right? And that kind of just alleviates that social anxiety when you're in those positions. I think it just makes it a little easier for yourself. But that's definitely along the lines, just kind of riding the coattails of music, dancing as well. Something that I'm seeing quite come up quite often.
Then I guess if you personally were to take up a music related hobby, what do you think you would want to do? Would it be dancing, or would you want to learn an instrument of some sort, or?
Man, I don't know. With the instrument thing, like, I feel like a lot of people who are listening right now probably already know an instrument just because their parents forced them into it.
Hmm.
And some people complain about it, but being one of the Asians that grew up not being forced into an instrument, I kind of feel bad. I kind of feel like I missed out on a very like unique experience. And now seeing that, or when I was coming out of high school and like, you know, trying to define myself as a character, you know, what are my hobbies, what do I stand for, who am I as a character, when I meet someone new, what do I represent to them? And I had nothing. It's like I didn't even have an instrument. It's like I don't even play an instrument. I don't even know anything about music. I knew nothing. I felt so one-dimensional. And I think a lot of people who are listening probably very just want you to be grateful if you were forced into it, if you were terrorized into learning piano at the age of 5. Don't worry, it doesn't end poorly. It's gonna help you in the future, definitely. It's gonna be some icebreaker. You're gonna go to a party. Someone's gonna pick up a guitar. You're gonna sit on the piano. It's a nice way to start conversations, right? It's one more thing you can talk about. But for me personally, sorry, I don't know. I think I'd probably pick dancing. It's the one that I've recently gravitated towards the most. That I see myself doing. That I can see myself doing.
Cool. All right. Music, you should do it because it's fun. It lets you connect with people. Next, what did you have here, Cal? Plant collecting.
I see this. This is just like something that I'm seeing very come up quite often, and it's just people growing plants a lot these days. Just going out buying plants and decorating. It's almost like a hybrid. I wouldn't say it's a hobby, a full-on hobby. I'd say if you meet these people and you talk to them about it, it doesn't feel that big of a commitment to be like a full-blown hobby where you'd say, this is a hobby, this is my hobby, this is all I do every day or something like that. But it's something that I see people put more energy into these days, and it's just like almost like an interior design. Hey, let me collect some plants, take care of these plants, And I put down as it's like a halfway step to getting a pet. It's taking on some responsibility because you got to be responsible. Unless you get one of those plants that can literally survive in the middle of nowhere, you don't have to give it any sunlight. There are some plants out there like that, but I think,
Cactus.
yeah, I think the appeal of this is just that, hey, I'm taking on a bit of responsibility and I'm nurturing this thing. I'm helping it grow, and then I get to reap the benefits of it. I get to see the plant flourish and like thrive, over time, being patient with it and stuff like that. And so yeah, this is something that I've seen recently, a mix of like interior design and like plant collecting. I swear there's a special name for it, but I don't know. I tried to Google it, but I didn't know what to Google really. But yeah, just like if and the only reason why I bring this up is like, you really shouldn't call your pets a hobby, eh? Okay, you know what? I take that back. Don't worry. Plant collecting. Collect some plants.
Plant collecting. It looks cool.
Yeah.
It makes your room look nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one I've written down is languages. I think this is a big category of hobbies, right? You have people actually learning languages. You can go to other countries to practice it, show off a little bit. But there are also people who are into like linguistics and stuff. It's kind of like being like very interested in how languages are like built and whatever. I'm not interested in it at all, but like if that's something that seems cool to you, look it up. But what I'm more interested in is learning languages so that I can sing a karaoke and also watch my TV shows without subtitles. Second one, I've nowhere near achieved because it turns out that's pretty hard. But I did Japanese for 2 years at uni. Chinese, I was forced into learning a bit of it in primary school. I managed to quit after year 6.
Why does
kind
it
of regret?
Why does it sound like you were emancipated when you quit? You escaped.
Yeah, managed to wriggle my way out of it.
Yeah.
There's too much work in high school.
True.
And then Korean, I think that's another one I would want to learn, just so K-pop songs, man. I just want to be able to sing them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. We spoke about this last time, and I was telling you how I just felt a bit silly trying to learn Korean, Japanese, and it's like I haven't even like figured out the language that I do know, and that's Vietnamese, right? And if we're talking just from a utility standpoint, knowing a language, or if you choose to pick up a language, there is a chance for you to definitely grow like a deep appreciation for your own culture. And I think being what are we? We a first generation immigrant, or our parents are first generation. We're second whatever it is, right?
I'm not too sure how that works.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Well, immigrant parents, right? When we have immigrant parents, it's I found recently just it's so hard to connect. If I really want to sit down and connect, because my parents don't really have like that proficiency in English. I know some families I see like Kelly's able to talk to her parents in English quite easily, but I think at home in my household it's pretty much Vietnamese or nothing. So I have super broken Vietnamese at this point because I quit Vietnamese school for a long time. And it's something that I'm picking up again, just so I can deepen the relationships with my family, try to improve things there, right? This feels like a therapy session. And also better appreciate my culture. It's like, I've always had definitely a motivation to come back to Vietnam. And then just kind of, just check things out. Like, try to be a local, try to vibe away with my ancestors and stuff like that. But yeah.
You still need to take me on a Vietnam trip. I've still never been to Vietnam.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. Man, last time we went to Japan, we had a nice layover in Vietnam, and we only had like 6 hours. That was just so fun already. But yes, definitely. And see, that's why I'm training. That's why I've been like, at night I've been reading like chapters of Vietnamese books, just trying to like catch up my Vietnamese. So give me a couple months, I'll be back. Trust me, I'll be back. I'll be ready.
I'm waiting, bro. I'm waiting.
Tour guide proficient. I'll take you guys around, man.
Yeah, like I think a lot of times it's something I've come to appreciate a lot more. Wanting to learn my the language that my parents speak, right? So I'm Chinese. We speak Cantonese specifically, and it's always been growing up like whenever I've been made to learn languages or whenever I've pursued languages on my own, it's always been for the purposes of like some kind of utility for work, right? It's like it's always that like, ooh, China's like getting so big, so learn Mandarin. It will be like useful at some point, which probably it's useful, but I don't know how big of a deal that is, to be honest. And also like, okay, the reason I learned Japanese because I'm a big weeaboo, right? I just want to watch my animes and sing Japanese songs.
Yeah.
Same reason for Korean. The only reason I want to learn it is so that I can sing the songs.
Yeah.
But those kind of seem like weaker reasons to me nowadays. If I were to put in the effort to like relearn a language, I think I would want to connect with my roots and properly get to know Cantonese, learn about my culture,
Yeah.
be able to talk to my parents and even my grandparents like better, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think nowadays there's a growing like pride of, hey, these are my roots, this is my culture. And I really like that. I think growing up there wasn't a lot of that. So there were moments, shameful moments that I regret where I was shameful of my own culture and I try to hide it. I'm like, oh, I'm Australian. What do you mean? What are you talking about? But now I'm like, I really want to just wear it on my sleeves kind of thing. I'm Vietnamese. This is my culture. And I'm connected to it. I know my culture and things like that. So yeah, definitely my motivation in picking up a language, or if I were to pick up a language right now.
Vietnamese. All right, cool. Languages, very cool skill to have. Takes a lot of dedication, but very good.
You know, like, you know what, but, and I was just thinking, in today's day and age, it's probably, I mean, you can say this with so many things, but it's probably the best time ever to pick up a language with so many resources out there and like so many programs designed in apps, in whatever, right? It's like you can learn, I bet if you really put in the effort, you can learn whatever language you really wanted to, just commuting back and forth from work, like in that time, just Duolingo, the whole shebang. There are so many things out there. And so I was thinking nowadays, like, man, better time, best time that you could be picking up these things. So many resources out there, so many programs that have been designed to make the process super low friction, super easy to get into. So yeah, go for it, If you need an excuse, here it is. Go for it. Just go for it.
100% agree. All right. Next one is your one, Cal.
Oh,
What
right.
do you have next?
Actually, I noticed I was put gardening down, but I feel like gardening is in a similar, sits under the same umbrella as the whole collecting plants and taking care of plants. Oh, it's almost like
Same vibe.
it's almost like taking care of like an aquarium, like when you have fish and then you have an aquarium and you build like this whole ecosystem in like fish tanks and stuff like that. It's kind of like that, but like with like plants, right? You collect plants and then you kind of take care of them, you nurture them, kind of position them or whatever like that. But I think even then, something that I missed out on was just, this is also very similar to what I was saying before about working on cars. I think it's a really nice, mellow, downtime activity. Like you can just do these things and it's almost like meditation. Super chill, super serene. I just imagine like Zen vibes, right? That's kind of like the take that, how I see it. And that's probably, if I were to pick up on it, just one of those things, one of the reasons why I would pick up gardening or like collecting plants. But yeah, that was just kind of a footnote, I guess, to kind of attach to the whole plant collecting thing. But the other thing was hiking and backpacking. But now I put this down a while ago, but now I think I might walk back on this idea. I don't know if this is a hobby. I don't know. What do you think, Justin?
I think potentially, like some people are like so into it that it can become a hobby. But yeah, from a lot of times, from what I've seen, it tends to just be more of a day event than something that you get super into.
Right. No, sorry. I double take back my take. I think hiking can be a thing. Like I think people are very like big fanatics they'll just like walk through mountain trails and stuff like that, and that's a huge thing. And that's kind of just like running, but like with the scenery, kind of thing. But I think the reason why I initially just took it back was just I was scared to come across as saying like, "Hey, traveling is a hobby." I don't think traveling is a hobby. I saw someone tweet out, it was like traveling is a financial position. It's like you have to be. It's not a hobby. It's not a personality trait. And I think after seeing that, it's kind of true. It's a luxury, and it's not like, oh, some people like to travel. It's no. It's like you can afford to travel or you can't. You can't afford to travel. That might be a general statement, but it felt a bit, yeah, backpacking. I don't know. That could be a thing, but yeah, I'll just say hiking, and I think hiking is really just like running, like anything else, kind of finding mountain trails, and it kind of just it touches back on everything that we've mentioned. You can do it with friends. You always get together, and it's super serene, and kind of like when you don't have that connection to nature, hiking is probably one of those opportunities for you to, oh, I'm in, you know, connecting with Mother Nature again, getting a chance to be one with the earth, which you probably don't get a chance to do quite often. So yeah, hiking.
I've actually got a hot take on travel actually
Okay,
that I
okay.
wanted to talk about.
Throw me.
Um, I think people nowadays like they overvalue travel. Um, you always I think it's kind of deeply embedded into like our culture, like Western culture specifically. Like, okay, you have your holiday once a year, that you organize your time off, and then you go to some country, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's or one. It's like kind of think of that. It's that's definitely more of a privilege than something that you need, right? I think at least for me, it's kind of it was so deeply embedded that it's like, oh, you have to go like travel like once a year kind of thing. Turns out you don't, right? Especially like this COVID stuff kind of really threw a wrench in everyone's travel plans. Everyone's perfectly chill, right? You're not losing out on too much. Your life is perfectly fine without the travel. It's a nice bonus, of course, but you don't need it. And I think there's a sense in that liking travel too much is overvaluing novelty. In my opinion, I think a lot of times um, you you're always chasing like this new thing of like, okay, I'm gonna go to this new city, like see all of these new things, and of course it's very good to broaden your horizons. But at the same time, do you know your own city, right? Like I feel like exploring deeply is more meaningful than exploring widely. I would much rather deeply know Sydney and like maybe one other country or one other city than to go
Know a
like
bit of
all over the
everything.
world and know a bit of everything. This might be more opinion based than
Yep.
anything, but in my opinion, it's cool to because I've had arguments with a friend before
Oh.
where it's like they want to like explore the world kind of thing, and they don't understand why do you keep wanting to go back to the same city. Like I always, if I go on a holiday, hey, I'm going back to Tokyo. I don't care. Like there's so many friends that want to go to Tokyo that I can always hitch a trip there.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like
Oh
I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
there twice already. I feel like I still barely know the city. Um, yeah, so that's my hot take. I think a decent amount of people would disagree with it.
Yeah, probably. I immediately, my instinct was to disagree as well. I think there is this, and it's irrational. I don't think I have any real argument behind why I would instinctively disagree. It was like a knee jerk reaction. Uh, it was more so just, hey, my life is this long and I want to maximize it. So my first way or my first thought of, oh, in order to maximize my life, I'm going to try to travel the world and try to gain as many experiences as possible. But I think you raise a good point. It's your experiences are shallow, and if you travel to every city once, you get to know like what they what that city portrays purposefully towards the tourists, and it's like maybe you're not getting the full experience. And that's something I've been thinking about, just like living abroad. That's something that I really want to do now, instead of just like traveling, hey,
Mm.
let's go 2 weeks 3 weeks here. I've always thought like, man, what if I just find a job in another country, some country that I'm interested in, and live there for like half a year or something like that. um, because then,
I think
yeah,
that's also like I would 100% agree that that would be way more my speed. You really get your grips into like knowing like the culture there.
yeah, definitely.
Sorry,
Your
sorry to hijack your point. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Your experience would be like 100% completely different to what you'd experience if you came there for like 2 weeks, right? Wherever this place is, I'm imagining, um, to live there and to have like your livelihood set up to go to work or something, like I imagine, go to work there, come home, and just have all this time to actually investigate and find all the nooks and cranny of the city. I think that's very interesting. That's something that I'm really interested in. But once again, whenever we come back to the topic of travel, it just feels like a luxury, and it's really cool that you articulated that way. Our families have always, hey, at the end of the year, this is how we take a break. We go overseas. And now I realize, no, you don't. I almost like trained myself to think that if I don't go overseas, I haven't had a good reset. And so I haven't had a proper holidays. But there is no reason to think that, right? You just need to make sure you take a good break and you take care of yourself. It doesn't need. I think it's the whole change of environment. Change of environment. Definitely, when you go overseas, it's a big change of environment. But when you come back, I think when you're looking for a break, any change of environment is good enough. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be overseas. Traveling overseas does feel like a luxury, definitely.
Okay. So next one I've got down is reading. Okay. Reading. I'm a big fan of reading. I like to read both non-fiction and fiction. Fiction a lot more this year actually. There was a period where I was reading only non-fiction, but there's so many benefits to reading, dude. One, it's you're practicing a useful skill. It's kind of like it feeds into itself. It's like, oh yeah, like reading is good because it helps you with reading. But genuinely, like reading, you need reading in like so many aspects of your life. That being very proficient in it is very useful, right? A lot of times, if you're at school or at uni, reading is such an important skill. You have to read a lot of things, especially for some degrees over others. But for work, you probably have to read a lot of things as well. Like if you're in engineering, got to read a lot of like codes and whatever, or like textbooks. But yeah, just having the skill itself is good. But there's so much to learn from reading, because what I've found is that because I've been on, like there was I'll talk about this in a sec as well, but like I've been on a self-improvement journey basically since I left high school. It all started with a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and this book it basically just teaches you like very basic social skills, things that if you were very socialized initially, it'd just be like, what is this? This is just common sense to you. But I don't consider myself a particularly social person. Always consider myself to be kind of awkward. So that book was really eye-opening to me, kind of set the context of like, okay, what's socializing about? Like what makes people want to talk to you? What makes you a pleasant person to interact with, right? And no one ever sits you down and walks you through these things. You just kind of pick up on it. And if you don't pick up on it, then you just lose out. But what I was getting at was that reading is the most bang for your buck form of knowledge, I guess, right? What you get from a $30 book, I've found is equivalent to like hours and hours of of watching things or like listening to things or going to classes. If you really sit down and digest a book, it costs so little for the amount of knowledge that you get. And it's also, and I think the reason for that is because it's also the simplest medium, right? If you're an expert in a field, if you were to put down your knowledge somewhere, the easiest thing to do would be to write it down, right? Videography takes a lot of effort. You either need to be really good at it yourself, or you got to pay a lot of money to get someone to film you, and it takes a lot of time to like make a good video series teaching people about things. But basically anyone can write a book about what they know. It may not be the most well-written book, but I think it's the simplest form to capture your knowledge, and that's why it has such a good ratio between how much it costs and how much knowledge you get from it.
Mm. Do you feel like, I mean, I heard somewhere that reading is still a niche thing. It's not something that people do, or it wouldn't be considered something mainstream. It's still considered like a niche medium, no, regardless of how popular it is. I kind of identify with that just because I'm not the type, the bookworm type. Have you? I mean, you said you started right out of high school. You picked up that book, and that was your gateway in. What was the
Hmm.
motivation? Were you reading already before that, leading up until that point? Like, were you already a big reader?
So I've always been a bit of a reader, which is something I'm grateful for my parents for just getting like renting, like not renting, borrowing books from the library when
Yep.
I was a kid. So that kind of got the building blocks ready for me. And then once I graduated high school, my dad just gave me How to Win Friends and Influence People, and that kind of like
Oh,
unlocked my mind of like, oh, there's these things that seem like perpetual problems of like I'm just not a social person. No, you just read about it and like learn about it, and then just get better at it, kind of thing. It kind of opened that
wow.
doorway. It kind of seems trivial, but like, it turns out you can just learn about things and solve problems.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't have to be a perpetual problem in your life, which is a very eye-opening moment for me, at least.
Dude, shout out to your
Um,
dad, man. Shout out to your dad. Straight up.
yeah, yeah. But that's one thing as well, I think, is that people underestimate how hard it is to read for like long periods of time, especially if you didn't read growing up, if you didn't read as a kid, getting into reading, just the skill of reading and like getting through a book is really quite difficult.
How would you? Because I suck. This is something I definitely suck with. You've given me books, and it's so hard to find. Not find the time. I take that back. It's so hard to get into it. I know it's 100% my fault. But what would be some advice where it's like I'm trying to get into it? It's like, is it just like anything starts slow? Like, how do I, you know?
Okay, I got you, bro. I
All
got you.
right.
Because this is one of my biggest things reading. Only read things that you're interested in. Yeah. Don't build a bad relationship with reading, because like, oh, you feel like you should be reading, and then like this book is like good if you feel like it'll make you a better person, kind of thing. That's for later on. Like that's when you're already like super deep in, and you have the power to like power through that, power through the boredom, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're just getting started with reading, only read things that you're interested in, because when you find the right book, you will be engrossed in it, right? You just need to find the right one. So think about what topics interest you right now. What problems are you having? Go find the highest rated book on Goodreads or like on Reddit. Find recommendations that way, and read about things that are very relevant to your life right now is kind of a big one that I found. If I'm interested in like being more social, like I'm gonna go read some books about socializing. If I want to learn how to study more effectively, I'm gonna go read books about that. But don't read books for the sake of it. Read things
Oh,
that are relevant to you, that you're interested in.
dude, I like that. Like, I've been guilt tripping myself. Oh, why haven't you read this book? Why haven't you read this book? And it's built like this just bad vibe. And every time I think about reading, it's like, oh, it's a chore. It's a chore. So, all right, I'm gonna go back to my basics. What am I actually interested in? Then look for the book like that. And it's like, okay, if I'm motivated to read, then I'll read. But if I'm not, then don't force myself into it. Okay, all right, Roger that. Got it.
And another tip, I'm very passionate about this topic,
Mm.
is don't be scared. Don't be scared of audiobooks. Audiobooks are just as good as normal books.
Oh,
They're just in audio form, which there's trade-offs to both, of course. Audiobooks, it's a bit harder to take notes because you're normally doing something else um, while you're listening to an audiobook. And it also takes longer, in my opinion, because most people can read faster than the speaker can speak.
Yep.
But the biggest benefit is that you can listen to audiobooks while you're doing something else, while you're on your commute, while you're doing chores.
Yeah.
And it's also much easier because it's easier to listen to someone speak than to read.
Okay.
So don't be scared of audiobooks.
All right.
They are just as valid as regular books.
So,
And it's a good gateway because I sometimes do both. I'll have the physical book and I also have the audiobook, and then I'll just like listen to it, and then like, okay, I feel like reading instead. I'll read a chapter and then like, okay, go back to the audiobook. I find that makes it
really?
it
So
makes
you
me
jump
feel
back
like
and forth?
it feels I jump back and forth because it makes me feel like even if I don't feel like one medium or the other, like I don't feel like reading per se, I can still make progress with the book
Yeah.
by listening to it for a while. And when I feel like again, I can jump back into reading it.
Yo, that's mad. All right. Damn, I like that, man. Far out. It's kind of like you've lowered all the frictions and all of the, like, any of the frictions that prevent you from going in. It's like making it as easy as possible. If you want to listen, you want to listen. Okay, cool. You want to read, you want to read. I like that. I like being open about that. I might try that out. And I think the biggest problem is just I've been using the excuse of the pandemic. I've just been waiting. Oh, when I get to commute again, I'm gonna dedicate that time. So we'll see. We'll see how I follow through on that. But I definitely have a couple books that I'm personally interested in. So I think I'm going to maybe pick up on that. But I'll get the audio book as well, so that I can jump between these things. That sounds like a good plan. Thank you, Justin.
All good. Okay. So what's the next one that you've written down?
Okay, so the next one was just photography and or videography. And I think with this, we're stepping into the creative space. And just with the design of a lot of people our age going into like 9 to 5s, going into like very academic professions, there isn't a lot of space for us to express ourselves creatively. And I found that similar to when I work on cars, it scratches that craftsmanship itch. When you work with like things like taking photos, making videos, editing videos, there is like this creative itch that I never get to, like, I guess, touch on in when I tutor or when I'm at uni. Just I don't find that outlet, and so I find it in things like, I don't personally take photos, but I'm assuming people who do, they get to express themselves. It's a form of self-expression and similar to videos. But I remember like after our Japan trip, I just like stitched together all of my footage off of my phone that I recorded, just random footage, and it just playing around with it and just editing, and it wasn't for anyone. It was just purely to, oh, let's make this video, and it just felt like I was able to get out this thing that I wasn't able to anywhere else in my life. So I really enjoy the fact that I'm a really big advocate of having a creative outlet, a creative hobby on top of everything else. Depending on what you do, but if you're in the whole academic line of work, or if you're an engineer, or if what you do is, the thing that you do, if the thing that you do is very logical, critical thinking all day long, just using your brain to solve problems, having a creative outlet, I think is very useful. You'd find a lot of joy in that, or I found a lot of joy in that.
For sure, dude. Like, making things is so much fun, and just it's important to like stretch that creative muscle.
It is, man. I'm scared sometimes because I don't get enough of it, and I'm scared like any other muscle, it disappears. So sometimes I try to find like, I need to make sure I'm expressing myself creatively. But yeah, that's my personal experience from it. I've always really enjoyed having a small. It doesn't have to be significant. I'm not trying to be the next Christopher Nolan. I'm just doing something. Just getting my ideas out there, right? Just getting my ideas out there. Yeah. So photography, videography, editing stuff, stitching stuff together. I've always found that really, really fun.
And I think, like, again, we talk about the social benefits of like hobbies so much, but I think this one's got a special one, is because not only can you connect with other photographers or videographers, you can basically connect to any other hobby, right? Because people always are happy, like always want like photographers around to like, take pictures of me or like record me when I'm doing my sports or when I'm working on my car.
Yeah.
or cooking or whatever, right? You're welcome in almost any circle.
Yeah. That's the thing with photography. You can take photos of anything, and so you can become like an anything photographer. And so now your opportunities are limitless, right? You can take pictures of whatever you want, and you can kind of find yourself into all of these different communities, and then my God, just that social aspect just blows up completely. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites, just because it's one of those things that I don't get a chance to do often with the things that we do in our everyday life.
For sure. Okay. So my final one is I would consider it a hobby, and it's self-improvement in general, looking to like just improve aspects of your life that might not quite be quite there yet. And how that kind of started with me was, again, that book, coming out of high school, I was like not very happy with who I was. I wasn't social enough. Like I wasn't very good at studying. I was one of those kids where like it's always, like you could do it, but you just didn't put down the effort, right? Once like I was doing well in school up until a point where my natural like ability to learn was not enough, and I needed to actually put in effort, and that's when I started failing. And there's a lot of things that like that I wasn't happy with, and turns out like you can work on these, right? So one thing I'm sure like you would have noticed, like there was a period where I was getting like learning about fashion and stuff,
Yes, 100%.
and just learning to be like better dressed.
And you're super well
'Cause
dressed now.
before that,
And it's what
thanks, dude.
textbook learnt pretty much. That's amazing to me, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah.
So just know out there, guys, like if you're in this little rut and you feel like, I think, man, you serve as a big inspiration, Justin, that like anyone from any position can really just get out there and learn. That's always been what our motto has been, just like you're learning to learn at school, and that carries on everywhere, right? And so, Justin is honestly has become one of the most well-dressed friends that I have, and it's pure textbook. This man learnt it from the books, and it's possible. It's not like, oh, if you read a textbook you can't, or if you learn it like from a book, if you read about it you can't actually implement it. No, it works out perfectly fine, it seems, from experience.
So if you were interested in fashion specifically, I to be honest, fashion I learned a lot from Reddit. There's a subreddit called Male Fashion Advice. A lot of their sidebar recommendations are really good. It's a very easy way to like learn about like fit and stuff.
Etiquette.
Fit as in like how clothes fit, and like where are good places to buy things. I would caution that they do have their own little like they have their own idea of what looks good, and it self perpetuates, and you kind of realize that it doesn't extend to all of society. So what that subreddit thinks looks good does not necessarily translate to real life in my experience. So there's a bit of a disconnect there that you need to fill in the gaps with. So don't worry too much about their specific recommendations. In my opinion, I would say just read the sidebar and learn the basics there. And YouTube is also a very good place. I follow this guy. I think he's called The Modest Man or something, and he's very like. There was one video in particular that was very theoretical that I really liked. He talked about the main things that you want to be looking at in terms of your clothing, which is the fit, the contrasts, and color. And contrast was the biggest one that I think people don't often know about. So the idea is that you naturally have a level of contrast to you, right? If you're Asian, you have high contrast because black hair contrasts with like white teeth, the white of your eyes, like your skin. So if you want to dress in like a style that fits that, you should have a high contrast outfit. Otherwise, too much attention gets drawn to like your face, for example, and not enough to like the rest of your body. It's kind of weighted too weirdly. Of course, like rules are meant to be broken, kind of thing. Like but you should first know the fundamental rule of like if you have high contrast features, wear a high contrast outfit to kind of match it, and then you can start breaking rules afterwards once you know what you're doing.
Once you get that baseline in, that's good. Yeah.
Mm.
Get the ball rolling, and then it's slowly. Oh, but I mean, fashion is also a form of like self-expression, right? Get the baseline going, and then you break the rules depending on how you feel and what you want to express, and then go balls to the wall. But yeah, that's cool. You can get fashion down to a science. I've never thought about it like that. I've always had an older brother who's kind of guided myself, or he's gotten me the ball rolling, and then it's kind of just played out from that. So I've never had to worry about that. But that's really interesting that anyone and everyone can get into it. It's almost like there's no excuse for looking like a slob. But then again, maybe that's your style. Maybe you do want to look like a hobo. That's cool. It's cool.
That's, yeah, so fashion's a good one to get into. Like everyone, like I'm sure everyone has at least somewhat of an interest in it, and it's an easy way to like very quickly like just up your game kind of thing.
Feel confident as well, right? Come on, you want to present yourself, put your best foot forward, and things like that.
So other things throughout the years that I've like just gotten into is like how to be more productive, how to be more organized. Turns out that's also a bit of an art and a science. How to socialize with people. This one's more of an art. When I've tried to boil it down into like a science kind of thing, like we'll do this if they do that, if then kind of thing. Doesn't really work.
Like a computer. You're like, if statement, if this, else that. I like that. That's cool.
What I will say about that is just socialize a lot. It's a skill. Just put yourself in positions where you socialize a lot. But the general gist of this is, I'm always working on something. Like, okay, what do I want to improve about myself? And I'm always like just reading about it or like learning about it and working on it. And I think that's a very good thing to constantly be doing. Yep. It's a good hobby of mine.
Yeah, I think, man, how you've left off or what you just said, I think kind of contradicts with what I want to mention. Just to kind of like a precautionary thing. Because we've talked about so many hobbies, different hobbies that you can get into, I've just found myself sometimes I've lost the plot with so many hobbies, or I've lost the plot with certain hobbies that I've gotten into. We talked about how gaming has been so just absolutely destructive for us, but I've had other hobbies not completely destroy my life, but definitely taken up a bit too much of my time. I found myself a little too distracted, and a lot of times I've needed to just take a step back and then reorganize my priorities. And it's just something that I wanted to mention before we kind of jump off. But yes, hobbies are good. I think with the one that you just mentioned, self-improvement, I think that's something that you can distract yourself with. That's perfectly fine. It's like a win-win situation. It's good all around. But definitely there are some hobbies out there that serve one purpose, and I don't think you should blow it out of proportion, right? Make sure you're still focused on what you're supposed to be focused on. Some students get into uni and, they completely forget that they're in uni at all. And they just, out there playing games all day or out there doing whatever all day. So make sure that, you prioritize, you have everything, you do everything with the right amount, proportionally, things like that. Just be careful. Don't let it get away from you in that sense. But yeah, that's just the last thing I wanted to add.
Definitely, dude. Like, as much as we're advocates for self-care, like looking after yourself, having good hobbies to balance out your life, don't lose the plot. You still need a main thing to feed yourself, right? Look after your family, like make money kind of thing.
Capitalism.
And capitalism.
I'm joking.
We're part of the system, yeah. But that's the rule you have to play by. Right. You need something to support yourself, pay your dues, and then in your spare time you can look for hobbies.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Now we just need to finish off with our song recommendations, Cal.
Yeah, I gotcha. I've been listening to this song called So Bad. And honestly, a lot of times I recommend songs, it's like very hip hoppy, it's very rap based. Sometimes it's K pop. And I think honestly, this one time, you'd like this one, Justin. You should check it out. It's called So Bad.
Okay.
I'm gonna type this one out because I really want you to check this out. So Bad,
Yeah.
and it's by a group named Stacy, Stayc. I think it's right up your
This
alley.
is K-pop.
Yeah, I think it's right up your alley. It's like super old Twice vibes, which I know you're a big fan
Okay.
of.
Yes, yes.
But then I don't want to hype it up because then disappointment. Whatever, check it out whenever. Whenever. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. But
it's chill.
yeah, it's chill. It's chill.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
chill.
I'll listen to it. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Bad by Stacy. My one is a song called Dreamy Night by a YouTuber actually, or a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
Her name's Lily Pichu. It's very cool because like
She sings.
yeah, it's like it's not even her like main thing, right?
Yeah.
She's super into music, but her day job is like a Twitch streamer. And this
Plays
is one of
games.
the first times. Yeah, she plays games, streams and stuff.
Oh.
And this is one of the first times that I've seen. Hopefully, it's not rude, but like a hobbyist, I guess, release a song that I've like really like vibed to. So yeah,
She's got
give that a
potential. You're
listen.
saying she's got potential.
No, I just think it's cool that like
Oh, okay.
I think it's inspirational that even as a hobbyist, it's not your main thing, that you can make songs to a quality that that random people would listen to.
Interesting. Lily Pichu. Yeah. I was like, what? YouTuber. Interesting. Cool. All right. Bet. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Cal, and thank you everyone for listening.